Serious, what are some scary, horrifying, creepy things that have happened that could have a plausible explanation but still freak you out? It's Em. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please let us know any video suggestions you want to see in the future. Story 1. To preface, I'm a suburban city boy. I've always lived surrounded by people and lights. So I visited my ex-mother-in-law in rural Georgia over the summer a couple years back. We're talking deep, deep rural south. No light pollution. So you can see a billion stars and the actual Milky Way across the sky. Well, the night I went, it was one of those slim crescent moons. So it was even darker than normal. I can't see my hand at the end of my outstretched arm levels of dark. I'm walking their little rat dog around the yard along the edge of a forest, and I'm probably 200 yards from their little trailer, which is the only source of light besides my flashlight. This little rat dog stops in the dead in his tracks and starts trembling. He looks up at me with his bug eyes popping out. I hear a rustle of leaves and a twig snap, maybe 20 feet to my left. I scoop the rat up and start power walking back to the house, looking in all directions with the flashlight. Once I get halfway back, I hear a blood-curdling, high-pitched scream from hell. It sounded like a woman was getting stabbed. Oh crap, this is some hills have eyes stuff and I'm gonna die. I ran as fast as I could back to the trailer. Ex-mother-in-law told me it was probably a bobcat. They scream like that all the time, apparently. I always love taking my college and city friends home with me to my small town because their genuine shock at how boring my town is, and then how wild the animals are is hilarious. I once had a friend see a deer genuinely for the first time ever at 20 years old. Homegirl was shocked. I can't imagine what she would have done if she had heard that bobcat. Story 2. A few years back, I lived with my mother and German Shepherd in a 2-bedroom rented townhouse. I got home from work one day and went about my daily routine. When it came time to eat dinner, I knocked on my mom's door to come out and eat. I smelled cigarette smoke and heard her grunt a response, so I went back down and ate alone. I figured I'd just put a plate away for her. Fast forward to about 2 a.m., I'm awoken by someone holding my hand and gently shaking it. I immediately shoot straight up and look around. My dog, who's overly protective and sleeps with me every single night, isn't in bed. She isn't even in the room. She most definitely was in my bed when I went to sleep. I sleep with the bedroom door shut and locked. She's scratching at my closed and locked door from the hallway. Frantic. I bolt for the door, let her in, and she's searching the whole room. I'm now yelling for my mother. No answer. I force my dog to walk down the hallway. I still smell cigarette smoke. I bang on my mom's door. No answer. So I just opened it. She isn't even home. The bed is made and her TV is off. My dog and I searched the whole entire house. Nothing is out of place. All the doors and windows are still locked. I was freaked out, to say the least. The next day I called my mom and she told me she left early the day before to go visit my sick grandfather. I'm not sure if I think this was a ghost or if someone broke into Opie's house, but either way, it sounds terrifying. Story 3. I used to have a penchant for wandering around abandoned buildings when I was in high school. One time a friend and I decided it would be a good idea to explore a farmstead that hadn't been in use for years. The whole experience was really bizarre. The farmstead was accessible by a long gravel road that brought you to a cluster of dilapidated buildings around a central barn. We parked at the end of the gravel road near the turnoff to the main road, so we could walk around the property and just pull out quickly later. We went into the barn first, and there were deer bones arranged in a circle around the skull and a bunch of blankets and wood stacked in a corner of the room. We thought it was really cultish and weird, noped out, and started walking back to the car. Halfway down the gravel road, we hear crunching, heavy footsteps, and someone screeching behind us. Really loud screeching. We sprinted back to my car and tried to peel out of there as fast as possible, but it had snowed the night prior and my back tire was stuck in a puddle of melted snow. My friend was screaming because she was so freaked out, but wouldn't turn to look at the path behind us. By the time I had gotten the car unstuck, she turned around to see if there was someone following us, and there was no one there. It could have been a bird or something, but we both swear up and down to this day that someone was following us. Somebody then commented a story of their own. I used to go exploring abandoned places with my friends too. The weirdest experience was at this abandoned amusement park we went to. The last time we had been there was a skeleton of a cat that had fallen from a ceiling tile inside of one of the buildings and freaked one of my friends out, but I wasn't there, so I don't know much about that incident. But this park has there's a long walk to get to the entrance, and the gate has been bent just enough that you can step through it at the right angle. So we walk probably a mile across the field to get to this gate and step inside. The first building is some sort of old storefront type of thing. We walk up to it, and one of my friends notices a light coming from inside, and we all fall silent as he steps forward to explore it. He looks back wide-eyed, and naturally, the urban exploring rest of us go over to the doorway and check what he saw. The whole wall opposite from us was on fire. It looked like it had purposely been lit on fire like no less than 10 minutes before we got there, and we straight sprinted back to our cars. Freaky crap. Yeah, no, frick that. Anytime you see bones lined up in any formation, you get the hell out of there. No ifs, ands, or buts. Just turn around and go on with your day. Story 4. When I was younger, my mom, my grandma, and I liked to go to this little frou-frou tea shop that was about 40 miles from our home. It was a cute little place where you could get the classic tea and sandwiches and cute little desserts and all. One time we went, all was normal. But on the way home, we received a call that my other grandma had passed away. Very sad, but she'd been battling cancer. Not exactly unexpected. The next time we went, a few months later. On the way home, we received a call that my uncle had died suddenly of a heart attack. Creepy coincidences for sure, but we still did not think too much of it at the time. We went back a third time a few months after that, and for the third time on the way home, we received the phone call that someone had died. This time, it was my grandpa's brother. We never went back to that tea shop again. Now, all of these people were elderly and not exactly in the best of health, so them passing away around the same time was not exactly creepy. But the fact that 3 separate times that we went to this place, 3 people died this same day, and we received the calls on the way home makes me think that something about that place was cursed. It has since closed, but I'm still nervous to even go to that area to this day. Story 5. Context. My grandfather was a truck driver and taught me everything I know about driving, especially in snow. I used to work at a store, and one night I was closing another store in our chain, and we had a snow squall that unexpectedly dropped a few inches of snow in our area. I wasn't very familiar with the area, and I had my mom's car, so I wasn't used to the car either. The snow was still coming down and I couldn't see, so I was creeping home and panicking as I saw cars spinning out all around me. All of a sudden, I saw a light in my passenger side view mirror, and I turned my head and sat in the passenger seat, plain as day. I saw my dead grandfather. I heard him say he knew that I wasn't freaked out by the little snow, and then I heard his voice rattling off all the things he taught me about driving in the snow. I looked back towards the road, and then he was gone. It was a calming experience when I saw him. It was more, okay, Pop's here, I'm okay, instead of, OMG, you're supposed to be dead, WTF? And I stopped panicking and got home without a problem. It was most likely just my brain, eyes, whatever, playing tricks on me to get me to stop panicking. But to this day, it still freaks me out. Somebody commented, I wish I had an encounter like that. I miss my grandparents. I lost my grandmother a while back, and I will say I've gotten to this point that when I felt her presence when I was younger, it was so much more comforting than truly scary. I think it's all relative because I still find ghosts terrifying, but I was never scared when I believed it to be her. Story 6. I remember one time as a child, I was home on a Saturday morning. For a bit of context, back then, my mom would usually go into work on Saturday mornings and be home by 12 p.m., usually. Now, back to the story. I was sitting on the couch watching TV. The time started approaching 12, which meant that my mom was almost home. I very vividly remember hearing a car door close, hearing the car lock, and my mom walking into the house calling my name. When I got up to go greet her, there was no one there. Still creeps me out. Somebody commented, I had a similar thing with my mom when I was around 12 or 13. I had just been chatting with her and then started to walk upstairs while she was in the kitchen. All of a sudden I hear her go, oh, super loud, like the noise you make when someone has said something a bit cheeky or rude. It confused me because I'd not said or done anything to warrant a reaction like that. So I went back into the kitchen and asked her what that was all about. She didn't have a clue what I was talking about. Like genuinely, I could tell by her face that she wasn't just having me on. She was as confused as I am and claimed she didn't hear anything. I still wonder WTF happened there. Story 7. I lived in one of the oldest apartments in the town I was living in. Couldn't sleep one night, but eventually I must have dozed off as I started having an incredibly vivid dream of myself laying in bed. Everything the exact same as in reality, except my door opened and a creepy old lady started ominously walking towards me. I woke up and freaked out. I always lock my door, but just to be sure, I went and checked it. It was unlocked. Somebody commented their own story. Many years ago, my then wife was out of the country on business. I was sleeping sleeping with the bedroom door locked and all the outside doors locked. In the middle of the night, something woke me up. At first, I couldn't tell what it was, but as I started looking around, I saw a shadow on the wall that shouldn't be there. Some clothes I hanged and forgot about was my first thought. Then, I remembered that there was nothing to hang anything on that wall, so I looked more carefully. I did not want to turn on the light because I knew if I did, I would fully wake up and have a hard time going back to sleep. As I looked, trying to make sense of the shadow, I could vaguely discern a humanoid form. Yeah, that looks like a head and arms. And then the thing moved toward me. Story 8. Here's my best. Would love a plausible explanation. By the way, this is back when I lived in New Zealand. Walking home in the forest at night with a friend at like 2 a.m. Don't even ask. We were about 14. We were having a good time talking, etc. When out of nowhere, our friend shows up and starts talking to us. Our friend starts chatting with us, and I felt a really strong sense of euphoria. This friend knew both of our names and things that he shouldn't have. Like exact details of the inside in my room and things that happened to me before I moved into the country. Then he was just gone, and we both collapsed, physically exhausted. It was then that we realized that we had never met this friend, and we were still 10 kilometers from town, and another 2 kilometers from our campsite. We just laid there for so long recovering. I never actually properly saw my friend. I kind of just knew he was with us, and I can't recall his voice either. All I remember is him asking to take us to his house. Just turn left. My real friend luckily had the sense to not let me go. That left turn led to this unfenced lookout with like a 5-meter drop to rocks. Don't even want to think about what would have happened if I had listened. This might not be totally rational, but it sounds like the mythological creature, a succubus, which is able to somehow lure people in and just fully entrance them. I can't think of anything more rational, so I'd love to hear if you guys think of anything. Story 9. So as a youngster, me and my brother were staying up late playing video games since we didn't have school the next morning. It was maybe 3 a.m. when we decided to shut it down and get in bed. My room is at the end of the hall, while my brother's are right next to mine. After we shut it off and put the controllers away, we both hear these heavy, slow footsteps coming from the kitchen. The kitchen was the only room without carpet, so they sounded pretty ominous. We gave each other a look, and I called out down the hall, "Dad?" Well, then the footsteps sounded trailed back towards our laundry room and stopped. That's also where our basement door is. Well, we knew something wasn't right, so we both started yelling for our mom and dad, and they came rushing to us all sleepy and confused. And we frantically explained what we heard. My dad goes and checks it out and tells us that all the doors are still locked and closed, and there isn't anything showing anyone was in the house. Plausible explanation could be that it was just a person that broke in and scurried off when we called out, but I always wondered if what it was a ghost instead. Story 10. Have you ever used one of those sleep apps that records noises while you're sleeping? It's supposed to be so you can hear if you're snoring or talking or whatever. I'm having a hard time sleeping right now, so I turned it on. At 3 a.m., there's a lot of footsteps and sounds like doors and drawers opening and closing. I can hear myself moaning close to the phone from time to time, like I'm dreaming, but there's not any noise of rustling bed sheets to explain sleepwalking or anything. I have a large velvety rug in my bedroom, so there shouldn't be footsteps. Realistically, I have a metal bed frame, so the clicking and knocking sounds are probably the bed frame shifting when I move, but it sounds really like other things. I'm not recording at night anymore. Story 11. I've posted about this before, but when I was about 9 years old in 1995, in the middle of a bright summer day, I went to the refrigerator to get a popsicle. Suddenly, a rough, teenage-looking guy with long brown hair, wearing a beige turtleneck and red plaid bell-bottoms turned around the corner into the hallway to my left, then vanished from toe to head as I looked at him. Told no one about it for years until after my mother mentioned meeting the now-grown kids who lived in the house before us, who asked her if she'd seen the bell-bottom ghost. Somebody commented, "Some guy back in the 70s probably has a story about seeing some kid in his kitchen, getting a popsicle from a futuristic-looking fridge." I do love this idea that there's such thing as like reverse ghost for people who are currently alive. Like imagine if you were just chilling and you see someone who looks like they're from the year 2080, just casually in the bathroom while you're taking a poop. Story 12. I suffer from insomnia. When I sleep less than 2 hours in 3 days, I start hallucinating, and I'm completely unaware that I am hallucinating. Once I was about to lay in bed and found myself sitting in the living room in the dark. I know I lost consciousness and walked there, but I can't help to think I teleported. Somebody commented, "My insomnia is getting worse every month. I went to work on a Saturday. Had a really productive day with lots of meetings. Too bad it was Sunday and I was the only one in the office." Somebody responded to them, "Please go and seek help. That's really, really bad." Story 13. This is less scary, horrifying, creepy, and more unsolved mystery that still bugs me. When I was 5, the tooth fairy came and left me a quarter for my tooth. She also left me this beautifully, intricately carved wooden pencil box. In the morning, my parents both asked me where I got it. I told them the tooth fairy brought it. Almost 30 years later, my parents still swear up and down it wasn't them. They've confessed tons of other things they did. So I believe them when they say it wasn't them. I would like to know where that thing came from and who put it there.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.